Welcome back, everybody. It's Rodrigo Afanador with another episode of Asheville Rea Estate News. As been the tradition for the last 2 years, and this is going to be year number 3, we're doing our annual market predictions for the upcoming year. So if you're curious to know what the other ones have sounded like, go back. You can listen to them, find them on our website, iTunes, YouTube, etc. for 2018, for 2019, and now for 2020. Really excited about just kind of hearing this. I think we got a really good mix of people that are really professionals in the industry and just giving us some thoughts. I think this year's is going to be a little different in the sense that they're probably longer segments than previous years. So you're going to get a little bit more meat on the bone than before. So the only thing left is for me to give a prediction. And I've been struggling with this one because the last 2 years have been a little bit more like doom and gloom. Things are going to change. Things are going to go down. Obviously, I've been very wrong because it's been a really good, strong market for the last 2 years. And so prediction for 2020, I'm going to just take the easy way out and say it's going to be a little bit more of what we're seeing. My anticipation, kind of things that we're seeing on our end with rentals and the houses, is that there might be a slight dip, but hopefully there's not anything that's going to be really noticeable to anybody unless you're in the real estate business. So those are our predictions. Take a listen. Let us know what you think. Are we right? Are we wrong? Did we get it correct, etc.? Let us know, and see you guys next week. Also, sorry that we're coming to you a little bit late on dropping this episode. Hopefully we'll get back into rhythm next week. My apologies for that. See you guys then. Take care. Appreciate it. So you said a year ago you made the prediction, or you were saying, hey, like this is the top. Do you mind just, I don't know, talking about that for a couple minutes or seconds or whatever it is, and why you think that is, and why has it taken so long for it to be noticeable?
Well, I think it's interesting because you got to watch. So an agent who I have a lot of respect for, she made this analogy. She said Asheville ends up feeling the ripple effect of what's happening in the bigger cities, and so I watch what's happening in the bigger cities. For instance, I'll give you a perfect example. The luxury market has been really suffering throughout the country in the big cities, in New York, in Miami, LA. There's so much luxury inventory right now. So what happens is it's just not being soaked up, and so we're feeling that here. If you look at the luxury market here, it's not moving as quickly. So I'm watching what's happening in the rest of the country, and then waiting for the ripple effect to get here, because we're typically right behind the mark. So everybody else, other markets will start to feel the market get worse first. Right. And then at some point, then we're going to get it. And so you got to look outside. So what I always say, when I drive, I'm not just looking at the car in front of me. I'm looking through his window to watch the car in front of him. Right. So that I can try to predict what's going to happen. And so I'm looking at all the at all of the other markets to try to figure out what's happening here. And frankly, if you're just paying attention, if you get the e-blast from the agents, price reductions. We used to not. A year ago, price reductions were unheard of. I have a listing now that we put on the market 30 days ago. 30 days, a $259,900. That house would have had 5 offers a year ago, and we would have closed it by now. It took us 30 days. And so it's what I said. I think, and I might have said this when we spoke the last time. I think the market is just going to I don't feel like a big boom is coming unless something obviously drastic happens. I think it's just going to be gradual pain. Sales have gone back and forth. We keep seeing mortgage rates. So I watch the mortgage applications. So how do you know what's happening? So watch the mortgage applications. See what's happening there. Everything creates a trend. So if it happens 1 month, it's not a trend. But if it happens 6 months in a row,
something's happening. Yeah.
And so what I look at locally here is I look at absorption rate, and I watch it go from 30 days to 60 days to 90 days. What do you think is going to happen next? It's going to be 120 days. And so at some point, it's going to flip, and it's going to be, it's not going to be a seller's market anymore. It's going to be a buyer's market. And that's how I try to predict, if you can, of what's happening and what's going to happen.
Do you think it's going to kind of go the other way at any point in time, or you're just kind of right now you're just kind of anticipating a slow, gradual decrease in price, speed, et cetera, and just see what happens?
Yeah. So I think I think that we're in for this sort of gradual. We're in for this gradual slowdown for the next 12 months for sure, barring obviously anything major happens, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty on the market. There's uncertainty in government, and so there's uncertainty in the stock market. There's a lot of highs and lows. So it's never all bad news, and it's never all good news. So what does that tell me? That tells me that we're right here. We're nice and even. And so I think it's going to be gradual. And sometimes I laugh. I'm like, everybody's talking about the recession. We may look back on this 3 years from now and be like, the recession that never came, right? Yeah. I don't think that's the case. But because we're so traumatized by the last recession, that I keep telling people, guys, we're not going to go through that again. It's unlikely. I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's just unlikely that we go through something that major again. The next recession may only last 8 months. So Ray Dalio has this great book, and I think and Tony Robbins put it on one of his books. And you go and you study the length of time of the recessions. They're not as bad as sometimes people look at them and say, well, things did slow down there for a while, but they weren't so bad. So if interest rates go from 4% to 5%, are people not going to buy real estate anymore?
I mean, people have always been buying, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I think we did market predictions for like 2018, and I sat in front of the mic and was like, this year's going to suck. It's going to be tough. I mean, obviously that didn't happen. I was very wrong about that. Yeah. But I was like, man, like, just on the stuff I was like, I don't understand how it can continue.
But let me say something about this too, because I don't want agents to hear this and get so worried that what happens is agents start to freak out. Listen, this is a business that when you take care of the business is going to take care of you, right? You got to do you, no matter where. If you're in real estate, you got to sell real estate in good markets and bad markets.
My 2020 real estate market predictions, I'm going to be boring and say they're going to stay the same. It's going to be hot again. And it's going to be about the same. 2021 could be very different, but 2020 will be the same, and it'll be very much predicated on the election outcome. But overall, I believe it will stay the same. It'll be very hot.
I think sometimes it's smarter to think about what if I had to hold.
Could you rent it well?
Exactly, and those are like I think when the market was getting hit so hard, the people that really lost are the people that couldn't hold. Because we've seen our market come back, and we're at higher prices than we were then. But so if I moved out today, that we even do that in our own life. We built an apartment in our basement for the whole reason that if we needed to, we could rent that out and pay half of our mortgage, or if we moved out, then we could make money even in a depressed market.
Well, let's talk about markets.
Okay.
Because I think. So we do this thing every year, do like predictions. I think last 2 years I've been like a little bit of like raining on everybody's parade. I'm like, I don't understand how this is going to continue going. Not based on anything other than just like my gut feel. So I think this year around, I don't know if I'm going to make any predictions. I might have to take the easy route out. But would you all, like, if you're thinking 2020, what's your opinion? What's happening in the real estate market here in Asheville for 2020?
Oh, funny that you asked, because I wrote a little song about it.
Oh, did you?
No,
I heard about that. Is this the rap?
I'm saving that for January 1. I'm going to sing that song.
Really?
But today I'm just going to.
We'd love to welcome you back. We'd love to welcome you back for that moment.
Okay. I'll be working. I will not be present. I'll be perfecting the rap before that day. No, we've actually talked about this a lot, because it's there's always a lot of fear, I think, in real estate because of 2008, 2009. And most people in our generation, that's what they've seen of real estate and the market. And so, we were just talking about the other day, like how people that lived through, not to compare it, but like the Great Depression, something that's very impactful in that generation, the way they live their life after that is always with the fear that could return. And I think that everybody has a little bit of that in them around the housing market now. But I feel like our market, we're really fortunate because we have very temperate climate. We have a very good community and just a really desirable location. So I know we've seen over the last 5 years a big influx of people wanting to move here. Right. I don't know the statistics, but I know that our population grows exponentially, like every month. It's and I don't think that's going to change. And so therefore, we have to be able to house our market.
Like, people are going to want to move here no matter what. Yeah.
People here words like market shift or the market's changing or it's leveling out or and I think that they have this fear that, oh my gosh, if the market shifts, it's going to be another recession. We're going to be in the same position. And so they're fearful about how they move forward. I don't necessarily think a market shift or market correction is the worst thing that could happen. I don't think that we're going to see another 2008, 2009 anytime in the near future, hopefully. But I don't think that it would be a bad thing to necessarily see a shift or a correction because, as you said, things, you have a hard time believing that things can just exponentially rise.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily want that for our town. We don't want to price our residents out of the area. We do have an affordable housing crisis here, and I think that we would love to be able to keep the hospitality industry in the city, and that's hard, and it's going to continue to become hard if prices continue to rise exponentially.
And it's a time to get good deals.
It is.
Like if we, if we get a little shift, and I'm not talking anything major, but just a few percent, it's a good time for people to buy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. We didn't mention is a big part of our focus, us personally as flippers, is to provide affordable housing, and so we really try to produce at least half of the houses we put out a year be in that low $200,000 range, because we want people to be able to live here and to be able to buy a house that they don't have to put a new roof on, all the plumbing's new, all the electric's new, and that they can move in and not have any added expenses because it's the largest purchase that they're probably going to make, and they want to feel safe in that.
I've been asking this on the latter half of this year is just, would you feel comfortable making a 2020 market prediction? What do you expect or thinking is going to happen, just generically speaking, in the real estate world?
Well, I have high hopes for 2020. I think that I think the economy is going to continue about where it is. In a way, it feels like there's, maybe some of the go hard, fast days of the late 90s and early 2000s. I don't think we're going to see that. But it does feel like we're going to have a pretty good market. Now, as we start getting toward the summer, it's an election year, so that'll be a wild card that starts getting a little crazy on see what the market does with that. But I do think that one of the things that's always, a great thing for real estate is, again, just the tax advantages and all the appreciation that can be the case. Even if the housing market doesn't appreciate, if you buy right, you can still do well in any economy. And if for some reason there is a recession and things take a little bit of a turn, we'll be positioned to take a look at some of those opportunities as well and really, see if there's something we can pick up then as well. But again, we're still taking a buy approach. We're very much looking at buying next year. Again, we even have offers, like I said, out now. So we're trying to push to keep buying, but like I said, we're not going to buy a deal just to get a deal. We're going to buy smart.
Curious to know really kind of what your opinion is on how to survive the next downturn and why this could be important. Because, well, let's not over-dramatize, create a lot of drama around it. It might not be a downturn or whatnot.
Oh, there'll be a downturn.
It's let's just call it a market cycle, right? You've gone through, maybe through two for sure, right? Like
3.
Not 3. So, okay, so you've gone through 3 different market cycles where there's been
there's significantly
noticeable up and down.
Yeah, it's not like a little swing fluctuation.
Right.
It's bad.
Everybody would agree that there is something going on,
around
right?
2000, 99, 2000.
Then
there was a good one.
Yeah.
And then we had 2007 through 2012. That was the granddaddy.
Yeah.
And then the next one to come. But those were my 2.
Yeah.
And there were some like little small ones in there also.
We don't have to go super, deep down this road, but what are the most important takeaways that you've had? Maybe just like 2 or 3 different takeaways that you had that really made a difference, or that you think anybody who hasn't, like for me, I haven't experienced one. What should I be keeping in mind? What are the things that you would tell me?
Okay, so in 2007,
yes, sir.
We were just going into the downturn. We didn't know how bad it was going to be, but we knew something was afoot. So in 2006, everything leveled off. So it didn't go down, but values leveled off. So in 5, they were skyrocketing. It's kind of like 2017, 18. So we're in 2019 now, and values have leveled off.
Right.
In a lot of parts of the country, they're not started down, but we're leveling. Okay, so go to 2007. We're starting to see a downturn. I had a REIA at the time, a Real Estate Investors Association group, and it was in Cartersville, Georgia. We had 2,400 members, published a 28-page newspaper, 8 subgroups. I taught a monthly seminar. It was a big deal. And Pete came up to teach at my REIA. It was in April 2007. And he was going to be doing a seminar in Atlanta, so he spoke in my group. And when we were at the house, we were talking, and he said, the one thing you should do, he said, because whatever's coming is going to be big. And it reminded him of what he saw during the savings and loan debacle back in 85, 86. And he said, Jack and I moved to Dallas, Texas, and we did more deals than you can possibly imagine because there used to be a sign outside Dallas that said, last person to leave, turn out the lights. That's how bad Dallas got. Yeah. There was one time in Washington State, same thing. There was a sign that said, last person to leave. Now look at it now.
Yeah.
So there's some really big downturns that can happen.
Right.
Anyway, Pete said, if I were in your shoes, I would quit everything else you're doing, and I would focus on the kitchen table. Nothing but the kitchen table. Because what we're going into, there will be no more banks lending money. And you're going to have to learn how to do deals without banks and working through people and gathering allies and solving problems. And he said, but you'll come out of this meat grinder, a phenomenal creative deal structure. That night when we were driving home after the meeting, Kim was in the first car. I was in the second car. We had lots of equipment, so 2 cars. And I called Kim up on the phone, and I said, that was our last meeting. So we didn't announce it to anybody. We just closed down the REIA. Just like that. And I quit the golf club. I've been a pilot since I was 13 years old. So I quit flying. We quit everything. And the focus became the kitchen table. So when you go into a downturn, when things are getting tough, you have to really focus on helping people. Because our job is not to buy, sell, and rent houses. Our job is to solve people's real estate problems. And in a downturn, there are a lot of problems. And what we've been going through since 2012 has been an upturn.
Yeah.
Well, people don't have real estate problems like they, very much. Everything's appreciation. So every real estate investor looks like a damn genius because you buy a house, you can wait 2 years, sell it, and you make a lot of money. It's just appreciation is going on really good. But when values are tanking and crashing, especially like they did back in 7, 8, 9, 10, what do you do then? How do you solve those problems? How do you fund those deals? And again, it's just going to the kitchen table, and you're out there, and you got to use your creativity. So my first advice is get to the kitchen table. Ignore everything else and get face-to-face with people and listen to what they're saying to you, and they'll give you ways to structure. But one of the structures that work really, really good in a downturn is a master lease. Another one is using options, and almost no one uses options. Yeah. They may even know what a lease option is, but straight options, almost no one uses them.
Yeah, there's options are interesting. They're like you said. There's just right now it's kind of everybody's approaching things the same way. I'm sure you're seeing it a lot, right? It's just come in cash offers.
60 cents on the dollar.
Right? And then
everything's the big damn hammer. 60 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. The stupid ones are doing 80 cents on the dollar. The smart ones are doing 40 cents on the dollar. But that's the whole idea. It's kind of like if you open up their creative deal structuring toolbox, there's one tool. The big damn hammer. That's all that's in there.
Right.
And if you can't use the big damn hammer, well, they can't do the deal.
Right.
And they're walking by so many different deals they could do if they just had some other tools in that box.
So I've been asking, what's happening in 2020 in your opinion? You obviously have a unique perspective as being an agent and also an investor. So if you were to give a prediction, which with a ton of time to prepare, 5 seconds, what would it be and what do you think is going to happen? If anything.
The crystal ball says it's going to be right about the same as it is right now. Obviously, we're going into an election year, which it drives behavior a lot of times in one way or another. But at the end of the day, the economy is still very healthy. We hear from a lot of people that the sky is falling a little bit. We're waiting for this huge correction. But we're in different economic times than we were 10 years ago. And quite honestly, I just expect it to be about the same as it is right now.
Same as where we're at right now.
Yeah. up
Very
and down.
cool.
I think we're bouncing right now a little bit, right?
Doing that wave game.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's going up and down.
Very cool. Well, Alan, man, appreciate you taking the time to come on. Well, kind of hit on the make, keep, and grow. Just want to know is if you guys have any opinions on what's going to happen in 2020 on the real estate side of things or just in general, and maybe something that you're particularly excited about for, this is going to come out in January, so maybe something you're particularly excited about for this year.
Well, what I would say is it's not even necessarily specific to 2020, but more of the decade. Something I've learned a lot from Chris is about demographic trends, and what's driving multifamily growth is the millennials and the baby boomers. So with these two groups, I mean, massive population bubbles, and it's no secret that home ownership is going down, and America is one of like the last developed nations in the world that still is like a homeowner culture, whereas a lot of other countries are renter nations, and the United States is becoming more of a renter nation. So my prediction for it is that it's going to remain strong for quite some time due to those trends.
What's going to remain strong?
Multifamily,
Okay.
yeah. And
Cool.
I mean, that's a big focus that we're in, so that was my
I just wanted to
multifamily
clarify,
prediction, right?
yeah.
So I don't ride short-term trends. I did that in the stock market, and I got burned by that. So Boone Pickens is a guy that he follows big long-term trends, and he's been wrong, he's been right. But I like to follow big trends. I'm a demographics guy. That's why I got into the medical device industry. Why I got into the real estate industry. That's why I moved to the Southeast, Asheville. And that's why I got into multifamily. So I think what Caleb brings up with watching the demographics is important. That's not really going to get you a short-term prediction to 2020. So what I would say is I think we need to be very cautious in the markets right now. I think the stock market, the real estate market are at pretty high levels. If you look at valuations, stock market's at actually unprecedented high levels of valuation. So I think 2020 is going to bring some surprises. That's not a prediction.
That's a statement. That's okay. I know I was kind of catching you off guard with it, so that's okay.
Yeah, but I say there's a greater than 50-50 chance that we're going to see a correction. And I would argue that in the real estate market, I saw some comment on one of my posts yesterday, kind of like an eye roll type post from somebody in San Francisco, that the markets are, we're going to pull back. And if you look, rents are pulling back in San Francisco. They are pulling back in New York. They are pulling back in Miami.
Pulling back here a little bit too. It depends we've had a couple of rentals that we've had to actually decrease our pricing on when they've turned. So it's been noticeable.
Yeah, so I think that the markets will soften a little bit. Yeah. And again, I think that goes. You have to be very cautious. So if you're making an investment, so let's kind of take this full circle. I think make sure you understand the investment. Cash flow investments, I'm a big fan of. If you have something that's cash flowing today, you're probably going to have less risk than if it's a speculative development, for instance, or a spec home. We were building spec homes. We stopped doing that a few years ago. And I think that those cash flow investments most likely will outperform the more speculative investments this year. But don't bet any money on that.
See what happens, right?
Yeah, and I would say gut feel. I mean, this is my gut feeling. Right now, I feel very uncomfortable with putting money into the stock market. And that's my gut feel. With, say, apartment buildings, I don't think twice. I don't feel any sort of hesitation or worry. Or, in fact, I'm like, this money, I feel like my money is safe when I do that. But stock market, I feel like I'm at a blackjack table. I just can't bring myself to do it right now. And so, and that's not even, I mean, it's backed by some data, but sort of echoing what you're saying with the potential correction. Yeah. That's just how I feel.
2020 is coming around the corner. We've been in an upswing market for a while. Can I put you on the spot and see if you have any predictions you want to go on the record on for next year?
So we're I believe that in the next 12, 16 months, we're going to see a significant change in the way real estate's done.
Interesting.
I hope that doesn't scare everybody to death, but you should be aware of it.
Yeah.
We're moving from pipeline to platform sales. being savvy to that. I think that this is going to sound funny, kind of what's the movie? Terminator. But
okay.
I really do believe that there will be a partnership between who we are as people and the technology and the AI. The technology and the AI is going to interpret data. They will still need agents and people like yourself to interpret that data and to help people move through that. We're going to see a huge shift. We're going to all we need to do is we need to be in a continual state of learning. If we're continuing to move forward, everything's going to be fine. We're interpreting data. We're moving with the technology. It's the head in the sand that isn't going to work.
What is your opinion, predictions, perspective on the outlook for real estate for 2020?
All right. I don't care. Okay, and I say that with no arrogance because it doesn't matter what happens. Either way, I'm going to be successful. Okay, if it goes bad, I'm going to do really great. If it goes good, I'm going to do okay. If it stays the same, I'm going to do okay. It's not going to matter to me. So, but from your position, if it goes bad, you need to get out there and get as much stuff as you can possibly get under, contract and put it away so when it comes back. But personally, here's my personal opinion and how I look at the entire situation. It all comes down to politics. Okay, you don't want to. Nobody wants to talk about politics. I mean, I do, but very rarely does anybody else want to. It all comes down to politics. If you have a person that is going to, if there's a terrific change in Washington, and they roll back the tax cuts, okay, they raise the taxes, then you're going to have a different environment. If they increase the regulations, you're going to have a different environment. If you stay the same now, like it or not, you're going to have pretty much the same thing you have right now. An economy that is going to stay robust. Now, having said that, you need to prepare for both of those possible outcomes. Both of them. So, if you're not liquid enough, then you need to think about that. If you have a lot of rentals that you're fixing up and you need capital, you better address that now. Because you're going to know what's going to happen in the next, basically 10 months or so. And then when that starts to happen, you're going to be prepared for it. You don't want to be stuck in 2008 with a $1.6 million personal guarantee, okay, on a construction loan that you're paying $14,000 a month out.
How was that?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I came out of this with a very high credit score and better off, but it was a challenge. And I had one thing that many people don't have: vast experience, and I had a growing business that actually made money. So aside from that, it could have been an entirely different conversation we're having right now.
Heard.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents.